With me now on AM Agenda, Labor MP Ed Husic and Liberal Senator Scott Ryan. Ed Husic, first to you, a blue tie. It looks good.
I'm taking this bad boy for a farewell tour. And a good one too, not like one that's worth it, like not the Van Halen one that was just done. This is something people will get value for money for.
A farewell tour, that sounds ominous. On a serious note though, is this the time to be raising issues like abortion? Where did this come from in the debate? Is it a distraction, as Julie Bishop says?
Echoing the words of my colleague Steve Jones, was not comfortable with that issue re-entering the political fray. I think that there are other issues that do have an impact, particularly in terms of healthcare or superannuation, that are legitimately, would have an impact on women that should be, definitely discussed within the political arena. But I'm not so sure about whether or not we talk about the issue of abortion.
I spoke to Barnaby Joyce a bit earlier and I asked him whether or not women have anything to worry about when it comes to this issue in a coalition government. This is a little of what Senator Joyce had to say.
People have very strong views on this, on both sides of the debate. And people who are extremely close friends, and I have obviously in the political circles, extremely close friends who have a vastly different view on this issue than I do. But neither of us appreciate having this issue just thrown out there as the last sort of gasp for air for relevance from someone who's, on this issue, has really given away the honour of office.
Senator Joyce said, no, they don't have anything to worry about under a coalition government. Senator Ryan, but does Tony Abbott still need to be held accountable for statements in the past where he said that abortion is the easy way out?
There's only one person trying to Americanise our political debate here by throwing this issue up as a red herring, and that's Julia Gillard. I mean, Ed should be pretty lucky there that apparently wearing that shade of blue doesn't disqualify him from being a Labor MP. There is a disturbing lack of diversity in this government. I mean, let me give you a scenario. Imagine a world where a Labor PM who's a former Labor lawyer goes on leave to be replaced by a former Labor apparatchik as deputy. Budget is delivered by a Labor treasurer who used to be a Labor apparatchik and staffer, supported by a finance minister who was both, all the while being stalked by a former Labor PM who was knifed by all those people, who's another former Labor staffer. That's the lack of diversity in public life that Australians are worried about now, a lack of diversity that sees this Labor government so self-absorbed and a PM so out of touch that she's throwing up red herrings to appeal to her own base that even her own colleagues condemn.
Well, Senator Ryan, I know that there's been light-hearted reaction to the blue tie reference, but on a serious note, with female representation in the coalition, I spoke to Julie Bishop, the most senior within the coalition ranks. Do you support having more women in senior positions within the coalition?
Look, I support people being elected to public office on merit. The Liberal Party has always defended that tradition. Julie Bishop is our deputy leader. She has been since 2007. If we do happen to win the trust of the Australian people in September, she'll have a very senior role in a coalition government. I've got incredibly strong female coalition colleagues from Victoria, like Kelly O'Dwyer and Sophie Mirabella. Our record on gender issues is unsurpassed. The first woman in the House of Representatives came from our side of politics. The first woman in Cabinet was Dame Margaret Guilfoyle, Senator from Victoria under the Fraser government. So I'm quite happy to put our record against Labor's.
Ed Husic, what do you say to that? And I suppose the fact that I spoke to Julie Bishop today, it just seemed to ring hollow with the criticisms of what we heard yesterday from Prime Minister Gillard, that a return to the coalition would see banishing women's voices from our political scene.
Well, I think, as I said earlier, there are some issues that legitimately do enter the debate. I mean, if you, for example, a lot of women will take up part-time work roles as part of a overall thing within families to ensure that, we've got incomes that can support mortgages and raising children, and cutting their superannuation, for example, does that help them in terms of their, longer-term financial interests? Does cutting penalty rates affect their ability, their take-home pay? And do IR laws and changes to those and the security of employment help, particularly for women who might be working part-time or on a casual basis, the way that they, their sort of take-home pay. As I said earlier, these are legitimate issues, so I think they should be discussed. I mean, the issue of representation is one that's always thrashed out and will continue to be. But as I said, there are some public policy issues that we should be talking about. It's right to talk about and to determine what impact they do have.
But do you think that the focus on the gender card again is a distraction? Isn't it an attempt to distract from Prime Minister Gillard's other issues, leadership woes at the moment?
I don't think legitimate public policy issues can be or should be described as a distraction, Kieran. I understand where you're coming from, but for the points that I just raised a few moments ago, I don't think they're a distraction. For people, bread and butter issues like that do focus people's attention and should be pursued.
And there does remain, Senator Ryan, you'd concede inequality in large sections of our workforce, particularly where women earn a lot less than men in comparable jobs.
Well, look, the Coalition supported the position of the equal pay case that happened last year. But what we're seeing from Julia Gillard is an attempt to divert attention from her own failings. Julia Gillard will not be judged as a female Prime Minister. She'll be judged on her own record, which is abysmal, and it is stark to the Australian people. Ed there gave the most lame defence of a Prime Minister that I have ever heard from one's own side. You've got Ed from the right, you've got Stephen Jones from the left, both effectively condemning Julia Gillard raising this red herring. And yesterday showed that Julia Gillard is behaving like the radical student politician she once was, not the national leader Australians want their Prime Minister to be.
Kevin Rudd is going to be continuing his caravan today, Ed. He's in the seat of Barton, well received, no doubt, by the large Chinese community there. He remains popular within that segment of the Australian population, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does, and I've certainly seen in my own electorate, where members of the Australian Chinese community have met with him through to Daryl Mellams, and obviously in the seat of Barton today supporting a great bloke, Steve McMahon. I think Kevin's certainly welcome on the campaign trail, has a huge impact, and it's why Libs are worried about him and keep talking about him.
Certainly the Liberal Party have got its lines rolling already,
yeah.
Senator Ryan. Is this other Liberals worried about the uncertainty, the unknown of a return of Kevin Rudd? That would shake things up a bit, wouldn't it?
Oh, look, I tell you, the one thing that the Liberal Party's not concerned with is who the Labor leader is. I mean, if someone made a docudrama of this Labor government, it'd have to be called Dynasty or Dallas. The internecine, interfamilial, interfactional warfare when people who were once great mates spend all their time trying to knife each other. I mean, the Prime Minister of Australia should be chosen by the people, not by Bill Shorten, because Ed and his mates are desperate for a change, but Wayne and his mates are desperate to keep the Julia Gillard in office. I mean, this is insane. We've got chaos at the top echelons of our national government, where most of the governing party is concerned with their own jobs, not the jobs of their constituents. No, Australians have never seen anything like this, at least barely in my lifetime, because I was 2 when Gough Whitlam was dismissed. This is not a matter for the Labor Party to constantly talk about. It's been going for 3 years. The soap opera, the drama has to stop.
All right, let's take a quick break. Ed Husic, Senator Scott Ryan, stay where you are and we'll be right back on AM Agenda.